Welcome back with Business Today, and the next segment we have is real estate market, and we have Mr. Travis Gomez from Frontier Research Private Limited to discuss on the market conditions, the trends, and so many factors revolving around the real estate market. We welcome you, Travis.
Okay, thanks.
So to begin this discussion, can we just talk about the current situation of the real estate market?
Actually, just before I begin, I should really say that this is my own personal views and not necessarily the views of Frontier Research. So, I mean, this topic of real estate, it is kind of like a hot topic at the moment.
Exactly, it is the talk of the town.
Yeah, and if you look around Colombo, you see a lot of development going on, and you might be complaining about the traffic that it's causing. But in terms of what's going on, you see a lot of activity going on. You see a lot of new condominiums coming up, a lot of new hotel chains being set up. Then on the government side, you have them engaged in a lot of these highways and also introducing this new megapolis and associated with that. So you see a lot of activity going on, and associated with that also you see a lot of the prices of housing going up, a lot of the land prices going up. You see in general there's been this trend, there's a lot of activity going on in the construction sector. So related to that, what has also been happening, which is also relevant to the economy, is that basically a lot of credit has really been going into the construction sector. So one of the reasons why a lot of the credit has been booming more recently, a part of the reason for that can be explained by really a lot of these development activities that is going on. A lot of the credit has been channeled towards the construction sector.
Okay, since you were talking about the credit growth, what is the correlation you see with the credit growth and the construction industry? Positive impact?
So typically, I mean, what is fueling this is, on the one hand, there seems to be a demand. There seems to be an actual demand for this in terms of a lot of people's disposable incomes are going up. There's a lot of like foreign interest in the country. There's a lot of prospects for tourism. That tourism is like an industry that can grow really big here. So because of that, there's a lot of positives with respect to that. As a result, there's a lot of activity which has been fueled by this real, there is some real activity that they see that is really causing this. At the same time, also the situation we are in right now is that interest rates have been trending down since like the second half of last year, even the first half of this year. Interest rates have been relatively low. So as a result of that, basically a lot of firms have been going out and borrowing and basically investing in these projects. At the same time, from the household's point of view,
but now we see a different trend.
Yes, so I mean, even if you look historically, what has been happening is that if you take the construction industry, that has been really the main driver of growth within the industrial sector. That has been the biggest segment that has been contributing towards the credit growth in that sector. Okay, and typically what happens is that there tends to be like this inverse relationship between the interest rates and the credit that goes into construction. But also at the same time, there is also this lag that takes place. So, you know, even though interest rates start to pick up, you might see the credit growth will continue to pick up. So that has been really a worry recently with regard to the central bank and the recent and the new governor who was appointed. He sees this credit growth a bit of a concern. So that was also the reason why he basically decided to raise the interest rates in July recently. So even then, after they did that, still the credit growth has still remained high at like around 28% level.
Okay. So what are the growth corridors we see when you look at the urban areas and inner Colombo, and any particular corridors we see there's a boom in the real estate sector?
So it has been concentrated around, I mean, if you take a lot of the activity has been towards like the center of Colombo. So you can see a lot of the new hotels that are coming up there, a lot of the high-end commercial properties also been, a lot of it has been concentrated there. But also if you take a lot of the more suburban areas also, there has been a lot of development going on there as well. Because one thing that has been going on as well is that given the increase in activity, given the increase in the traffic that is there, a lot of people have actually also been moving out of the center of Colombo and more towards suburbs, because basically what has been happening is that with a lot of this activity going on, basically the prices of housing has actually gone up quite a lot. So in some areas of Colombo, actually prices have risen by about even 30-40%. So because of that, a lot of the people are being priced out. So they've been moving more towards the suburbs.
Okay.
So it's quite broad-based actually.
Okay. So what are the emerging drivers, demand drivers you see for the real estate sector?
So right now, a lot of the properties have, if you take the residential sector, a lot of the condominiums that have been coming up. So I think about for the next 4 years, I think the projections are about at least 6,000 new units of condominium units will be coming up, and a lot of it has been concentrated in the high end, in kind of like the prime real estate sort of area, and a lot of it has mostly been geared towards expats or foreigners or basically high net worth individuals setting up. But what we are seeing is that the sort of what we might see happening is that there might be a situation where there's an oversupply of that, because you're seeing a lot of activity is there. So there might, so then there's the question how much of that can be absorbed by these few groups. So as a result, what might happen is there might be a shift towards more affordable housing, or there might also be a shift towards more commercial property, where there seems to be a need for that, particularly at more affordable ranges.
Okay. So with the increase in lending rates, do you see now, because as you said, it was low when certain projects started. So with the increasing lending rates, do you see a demand and supply disparity coming into the picture? Because with the construction sector and households being facing difficulties?
Yeah, so I mean the effect really won't be immediate. That has been basically the trend in the past. It usually takes a couple of months for you to see a visible slowdown in terms of the construction activity that is going on. Because what could happen, what has been happening, is that basically when the interest rates basically start to rise, basically what can happen is, from the household's point of view, they might decide, okay, maybe now is the best time to go for these mortgages, or to try to borrow and to get into the real estate, because they might feel, okay, interest rates are going to rise even further. Okay, or on the other hand, they might also slow down in terms of going for this. At the same time, from the developer's point of view, they may decide that, okay, maybe there might be a slowdown. So because of that, what might happen is they might delay some of the phases of their project. So they may delay that, or they may also basically wait for more pre-sales. So that a lot of these residential apartments, basically the way they are structured is that basically the firm first sells the units, of a certain proportion of the units, before they even start the piling work, before they even start the construction. So what might happen is that they might wait for more pre-sales to take place before they actually start, actually constructing the property. So there might be, so all of those projects might get a bit delayed. So it tends to take a while for actually the adjustment to happen. So even now, even after in July, when they actually raised the interest rate, in August, and in if you take the credit, it has still been high at 28%. So the governor's target actually is to bring it down to about 18%. But he is confident that it will come down, but it will be more gradual.
So do you see any, as we are in the last quarter of the year, what is the trend you see from the first quarter to the last quarter and for next year?
Well, it's difficult to say, because there's a lot of viewpoints on this. So a lot of the developers still are very positive about it, and there's a lot of different views being expressed on it. So in general, I think that it might sustain, at least it will sustain at least for this year. We will see this same pace of growth that is taking place in terms of the construction. But towards next year, mid of next year at least, we would see some slowdown in the activity. But it's more difficult to say in terms of what would happen to the land prices and the prices of these properties, because that depends on a lot of other factors.
We don't see any appreciation of
so there have been different viewpoints that have been expressed. So some of the view that we are in a situation where the prices have risen too high and it's unsustainable, and that eventually something has to give and prices have to start to come down. But there's different viewpoints on it, and I don't have a specific view on that. But yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much, Travis, for joining us.